This video is a quick introductory tutorial to Snapchat ads. When you first start with Snapchat ads, often you get some sort of special incentive. So for me, you can see here that by spending $45 more, I'm able to get $75 in free credit. So make sure you check out what opportunities are available to you as a new advertiser. So I'm going to go into the Manage Ads section within the Snapchat Ads Manager and create ads. So this is generally where you will start when you start creating a new ads campaign. And you can see that there's the instant create option, which is the simplified version, and the advanced create. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select advanced create so that I have access to all the different opportunities and options. So similar to other social media advertising platforms such as Facebook and LinkedIn, we have three different buckets of objectives. And this is going to be one of the most important considerations in doing your Snapchat ads campaign. So there's awareness, which is really more of a long-term way of reaching a lot of people. There's consideration, where you're trying to get behavioral responses from people. So things like generating leads or generating clicks. And then there's conversions, where you're actually trying to get people to buy something or perhaps activate something. I want to call out which objectives I feel are the most important to consider. Number one is awareness. Now, a lot of people in the marketing world, specifically the digital marketing world, don't place a lot of emphasis on awareness. They think it's too soft. Really what they're looking for is like hard sales, immediate sales. But I can tell you, as a global brand and product marketing manager for companies such as Sony PlayStation, that this is incredibly important. The reason it's important is because it's the most cost-effective way of reaching a lot of people. And if you don't reach a lot of people, you're not really going to grow. And we have a lot of empirical evidence from books like How Brands Grow that suggests that really the key to growth is customer acquisition. So getting a lot of customers, not necessarily getting more loyal customers, not necessarily getting customers that pay a lot, but simply getting a lot of buyers. And the best way to optimize for that is for reach, to reach many people. And awareness is going to be the best way to do that. Now, in the consideration bucket, it's really going to depend on your situation. So app installs is going to be important if you have an app. Traffic, I would say, is not super important. Part of the reason is because just because you're optimizing for clicks doesn't mean you're necessarily optimizing for clicks from people that are particularly prone to buy your product now or in the future. Engagement, not very correlated based on evidence with things like sales, purchase intent, etc. So I don't generally optimize for that. Sometimes video views is going to be effective, but usually the problem here is the frequency gets too high. So you end up wanting to use the awareness objective instead. Lead generation is important, especially if you're marketing something like a business-to-business product or a business-to-consumer service. Now, as for conversions, I would say all of these are important depending on your situation. Now, the simplest version of this that's going to apply to most people will be website conversions. Catalog sales is going to be important for some of you, and app conversions if you are selling an app. We're going to go through an example of one of these later, but let's just take a look at some of the other settings that we have here. So Snapchat does have the ability to do split tests, so A/B tests. I generally am biased against this type of testing because I think there is a overemphasis on testing and not enough emphasis on just strategic creative when it comes to digital marketing. But obviously, if there's a particular thing that you want to test, like certain headline positioning, then by all means do it. I do it. You can set a daily spend cap, and you can also set a lifetime spend cap. So to demonstrate how to set up a campaign, let's select awareness as the objective. And then we'll hit next. You can see the demographic targeting here: United States, all genders, all ages. We're going to set a budget. So $50 per day is pretty high budget. Certainly not if you're working in a large company, but let's lower that to say $10. We'll leave the default start time here. We can go to automatic placement or edit placements. So we can decide specifically where we want the ads to show up. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at automatic. Sometimes social media platforms, advertising platforms have a tendency to sort of put your ads into junk spaces where they barely get noticed, or they get lots of clicks from people by mistake. So, for example, in tiny apps that are unrelated to the one that you actually intend to advertise on. So I tend to advertise in the United States because often this is where high paying customers are. Like the vast majority of revenue can come from the United States. The other challenge is that when you start to go globally, the data become less reliable. So it's more conservative to market to the United States, but for scale purposes, you might want to add more countries and go with global campaigns. For now, we'll leave this at the United States. Now, unlike other advertising platforms, we do have the ability to market to teenagers here. So you can see the age starts at 13, which is unusual. Now, if you're going to generate sales, influence sales from that demographic, fine. I'm going to change mine to age 20, and then I'm going to have no upper limit. So 50 plus will be fine. All genders. Generally the case, unless you're marketing something that's very specific, like lingerie or whatnot, all genders are going to be suitable for you. Languages, I just want to go with English because nobody's going to understand the ads if they don't. Now we have advanced demographics, which is really just about household income. Generally, I don't select these types of things. If you're selling some sort of luxury good where it's very unlikely someone would buy it if they don't have a certain income, but generally you're being a little too targeted if you do that, and you're limiting your growth opportunity. Now, under audiences, we have predefined audiences, which are very interesting. We have some interesting categories here in Snapchat that I haven't seen elsewhere. But before we get into those, I really want to call out the custom audiences option. So here we would create an audience. So if you're doing business to business marketing, you're not going to have the best targeting options available in Snapchat. So what you're probably going to want to do is something like a customer list where you import a list of your customers and advertise to them if that's what you're trying to do. It's not necessarily a list of customers. You could theoretically upload a list of prospects to try to get them to convert. But a more likely situation would be using the lookalike, because this is going to allow you to reach people that are more similar to your paying customer. So really the key with growth is getting new customers. And because you're not going to have very good business to business targeting within Snapchat, you would probably want to use something like lookalike audience. Now, this isn't just true in business to business, but in business to consumer as well. You're going to get more refined targeting if you use one of these options. But moving on, one thing I generally would want to avoid is expand audience automatically, because I don't really trust social media platforms to find the relevant people, but we do have advanced settings where we can select the expansion criteria here. So let's take a look at the predefined audiences. So we have lifestyles, we have shoppers, and we have visitors. So I think one of the most interesting ones here is the shoppers. So best practices in terms of growing your brand is to target all category buyers. Now, we learned this from Byron Sharp's research. So often what we see in the marketing world is an overemphasis on highly targeted target marketing, but really growth comes from targeting all category buyers. So for example, if you're marketing an amusement park, you can target all amusement park buyers, which is a really cool feature that's available in Snapchat that I don't really see anywhere else. Apparel store shoppers. So this is going to be great if you're marketing like a clothing brand, something like that. And we can even get more granular and say luxury apparel shoppers. So this level of targeting, where you're looking at buyers and shoppers, that's really best practices in terms of growth. You don't really need to get any more targeted than that in most cases. So we have auto product shoppers, beverage shoppers, big box store buyers, desserts buyers, drugstore buyers, e-commerce buyers. So this is going to be really important. This is one that I use. People that are likely to buy your online products, entertainment, gas store, etc. Pets. So tech buyers, all sorts of cool options here. So I would like to start with shoppers if you can find the relevant targeting criteria. So we can also look at lifestyles. I wouldn't trust this as much because I think the criteria for defining these is loose. But if you do have a mass market product that you're selling, then this is going to be fine. So adventure seekers, advocates and activists, arts and cultures mavens, beauty mavens, bookworms and avid readers. Very good if you're marketing something like a Kindle product, an audiobook, chat fiction enthusiasts, do-it-yourselfers, crypto enthusiasts. So you can see a lot of these are going to be relevant in some cases, perhaps not in others. Film and TV fans, gamers, going to be great if you're marketing a video game, which I've done in the past. Men's lifestyle, music fans, news watchers, etc. Social drinkers, sports fans, wellness and lifestyle. The third option we have here is visitors. So people that visit certain arts and entertainment centers. So for example, casinos, autos and vehicles, groceries and households, shopping at certain apparel stores, cell phone stores, etc. So these are incredibly useful as well because we can assume that these are buyers in these specific areas. And if you're competing in this category, it's going to be great for you to reach more buyers. Now, as you're setting your targeting criteria, you're going to want to monitor this thing on the right, very similar to other platforms. So target audience size, 41 million. If that seems too high, then you're going to want to go a little bit more narrow with your targeting. My experience with Snapchat is the targeting doesn't get narrow enough. But again, it depends on how much of a mass market appeal you have. Select your operating system. I generally go with all. Connection type, all. Devices, I usually go with all, unless you have some app-specific game, for example, that only works on iOS. Carriers, I go with all. So not usually relevant for me, but it may be for you. Goals, you can see here I went with impressions because I'm trying to maximize reach and doesn't seem to be any specific reach option. You could optimize for behavior, so swipe up, share, story opens, but those are often not correlated with buying intent or any sort of meaningful metrics. So I don't generally optimize for those. So I would go for impressions. Bids, you can see here I've set auto bid, but you could theoretically set a maximum bid, maximum CPM per 1,000 impressions. Let's just leave it at auto bid for now. Frequency cap would be very useful. So I would say maybe set it at 1 every 14 days. Low frequencies tend to outperform generally because what you're trying to do is maximize for reach. But may not necessarily be true if you're launching a new brand. And depending on the size of the market, frequency might go up anyways. So when we hit next, we can see the different types of ads that we can create. So we have a story ad, collection ad, commercial, AR lens, filter. Let's just go with a single image here. And I'm going to name my ad Decker Top Instructor. We can go with a headline. Decker is a top marketing instructor. All right, not enough space. So let's go with teacher. Shareable, enabled. What we're going to do is upload a media. So let's look at this image that I've prepared. That's the appropriate size. So where we created the image is in Canva. You can see here I have the image. It's 1080 by 1920 pixels. So that was custom made for Snapchat because I wasn't able to use the other sizes, the square sizes that I was using elsewhere. So here's what the ad looks like in Snapchat. And we're going to hit review and publish. And you can see here on the left how the structure of the campaigns is set up. So we have awareness here as the objective. We have the ad set, which is describing who we're targeting. And then we have the specific ad here. Now, to look at the other variables here, we can go to create ads. Here you can see where you manage the ads, create the ads. You can see your assets here. So custom audiences is going to be important. Pixels is going to be important with conversions. Apps is going to be important if you have an app. Catalogs, if you're doing something like e-commerce. You can see the creative library where you can create things. You can create videos, AR lens, filters, audience insights, reports, campaign lab, And then your business details, like your billing and payments and your members, etc. So what we're going to do is just briefly look at audience insights. You can see that it's broken up into these different categories. So there's an overview, and I can see the gender, typical age, typical income. We can go into demographics, okay, English, Spanish speaking, parents, etc. Locations, we can see California seems to be one of the leading locations, Texas. Not surprising, some of the most populous states. Interests, we can see shoppers, gamers, sports fans. There's a lot of overlap here, suggests pretty mass market. Devices, connection types, content, etc. The last thing we're going to look at here is the manage ads section. You can see this new campaign that I'm running. I spent $6.18. I got 2,000 impressions, 2 swipe ups, the swipe up rate 0.09%, not very reliable data at this point with only 2 swipe ups. You can see the campaign here focused on awareness, the results, cost per result. So we can see a CPM of $2.79. So with the CPM over $2, almost $3, and we compare it to what we're getting here on Facebook, I have a more targeted campaign on Facebook, so I'm able to get more precise targeting, and I'm being charged less than $2. So the CPM in this case is actually higher. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's an apples to apples comparison. If it's more likely to get noticed on Snapchat, if there are fewer competitors, then it is theoretically possible that those impressions are worth more. If there's too many duplicate impressions where you're getting the same people seeing them over and over, then I would be concerned with this high CPM rate. And we can see the number of swipe ups and then the effective cost per swipe up of $3. Now, I don't put a lot of weight on these kind of click-like behaviors because I don't think they're super important with scaling up your campaigns. But if it's particularly important for you and you're trying to get some short-term results, then by all means monitor that. That completes our quick overview of Snapchat ads.